Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber, and alongside me is Logan Camden. And today we are also joined by a very special guest. We have with us Jacob, aka, of course, Rusty Buckets. And we are here to break
Very
down, of
special.
course, very special, very, very special. We got to talk about the Indiana Pacers taking a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals, winning both games in New York. Jacob, I'll start with you. What are your takeaways? And how do you feel about Indiana having such a commanding lead up to this point in the series?
I really felt like the Knicks were going to win this game because I did feel like this was a fairly even match. My ultimate prediction was that the Pacers were going to win because they were the better team holistically, even if I thought New York's defense was better. But this isn't even like this wasn't a miraculous game. The Pacers were just kind of the better team most of the way through, and that's even in spite of the fact that Tyrese Haliburton shot 5 for 16 this game. Like a lot of stuff played in New York's favor, and they still managed to lose this game. The big thing as well, probably Cat just disappearing in the second half would be what I would highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job on second chance points, on dominating the glass, too. Jalen Brunson was amazing in this game. I mean, got whatever he wants. But this Pacers offense is really hard to stop, and you got to shout out Siakam. I mean, the damage he did in transition in the half court, he's by far the best player on the court in this game. And I don't want to beat a dead horse because we've talked about this a lot, but that was my ultimate faith in this team, is that Indiana was just going to continue churning out offense, and that's what they did in this game.
Dude,
it is ridiculous that they survived this bad of a Haliburton game, though.
He went 15 for 23. That is great efficiency. Let me see. Yeah, it's a 74 true shooting for a 39-point game.
Fantastic. And he was doing everything that you want to see from him, where early on he's attacking some mismatches. He's getting to some good looks that you like out of the post, even when he's being guarded by bigger players. And then, as you said, Logan, I mean, he's super effective in transition. He has a couple of just straight up leak outs in this game. He's getting to the line. He knocks down 3 shots from beyond the arc. So he really was fantastic in this one, especially in that first half. But throughout, I just feel like the story of this game is the story of the key difference between these two teams. And it's really just that Indiana is a well-oiled machine, and they just have more guys who you trust on a night after night basis. Like, I thought that Hali did some great stuff still as a playmaker. I thought he was phenomenal identifying transition opportunities. I thought that he was able to make some reads when he drew help and create some shots for teammates, as always. But as a scorer, he did not have it going. And this was a game in which he really had favorable opportunities as a scorer, because last game we saw the Knicks mostly playing drop and he was cooking them like that. He was also just dominating out of pick and roll. He was rejecting screens and getting by Mikal Bridges over and over again. But in this one, the Knicks come out switching, and so he's able to get that cat matchup whenever he wants it. And the step back 3 just hasn't been as consistent for him in this postseason as you kind of expect it to be. That was the case again in this one, where he just doesn't shoot super well from deep. And then he was a little passive, but at the end of the day, like, they're still able to get him a step at times involving Cat in the action, and a lot of possessions in this game, they are just bringing Jalen Brunson into the action. And so you have the multiple defensive liabilities for the Knicks being an issue. And then offensively, you're just getting deeper contributions from the Pacers. Nesmith, again, is great as a shooter and gives you 12. Miles Turner gives you 16 and is pretty efficient. Andrew Nembhard gives you an efficient 12. TJ McConnell, they just absolutely cannot contain. I mean, he's just been getting to the rim at will through both games of this series. He's too quick. They can't contain the ball. New York just doesn't have that luxury. Like, if Cat is not playing at an extremely high level, you question how they win games in this series. Because even with him and Brunson combining for 78 in game 1, they still couldn't win because they could not slow down the Pacers either. And that's just going to continue to be a struggle for them. And I just think it comes easier and it comes more consistently for Indiana.
I think the thing that also sucks for New York is they got a Bridges and OG game that were both pretty good, because it's really hard to get those players to both play good in the same game. But you got 16 out of OG and 20 out of Bridges. That's really good. But Cat just, I don't know where it is, because a lot of his career he was coached by Tom Thibodeau before even being in New York. But I just feel like throughout his entire career, he always scores in batches. He'll always have like, I'm going to get 8 quick points off right here. And then it's just like the offense forgets he exists. And I don't know at this point in his career how much I can blame that on the system and the team versus just like, clearly you just stop being aggressive at points. At a certain point, the problem is you at least a little bit.
And also, I mean, they just go with Mitch a lot more, and like you can't really blame them. Like Cat is minus 20 in this game. He was so compromising defensively.
Yeah, Mitchell played more minutes.
Like Mitch is just so much better protecting the rim. He's certainly way better on switches. He's better on the offensive glass. So even in game one, and Cat ended up going crazy in that one. But my thought early was like, if Mitch plays more than Cat, I wouldn't be mad at it because I just thought like what Cat was doing defensively early in game one was a joke. And it's just really, really difficult to find a functional scheme with Cat defensively. So that's a limitation. And then he definitely does also just become much less assertive and impactful offensively, but he's also just not on the floor as much in the
I
second
do
half.
feel like you can't do the double bigs lineup as much versus this Pacers team. They're going to punish you for that slow-footedness at the 4 spot way more than other teams will. So that's making it harder. It's making it hard to play those guys together, which is the most ideal thing.
100%, because that's the best weapon of this New York team, their ability to anchor the glass and manufacture extra possessions and really protect the rim. But I thought New York's inability to stop dribble penetration was a huge component and the reason their defense was poor too, because I agree with you guys. Cat and Robinson, either one of them on the floor or both of them on the floor, it's really hard, but guys are getting downhill and then that help side defender's coming, and there's not an offense that's better in basketball at making you pay when you have to send extra attention. Like Indiana's always going to make that skip pass. They're always going to find the open shooter, and it's just Knicks defense. It's like they got killed in transition. They couldn't contain the ball. And, yeah, I thought Robinson and Towns were bad defensively. It's just hard to overcome. Not all of their personnel is bad, right? Like, shout out Bridges and Anunoby. But when you've got this many liabilities on the floor against an offense this good, it's just a real uphill battle.
I also think their scheme that did a great job of hiding those weaknesses against Boston doesn't work against Indiana's personnel. The big thing, even though Tyrese had a bad game in this one, he obviously had a great one in game one, is just that like the way that they forced the Celtics into a bunch of like leaning on their worst tendencies. Like Tyrese feels very comfortable with the ball pressure. He feels very comfortable against mismatches. He's not, the like Brunson bump a guy off the spot and then do the switch thing where you give Tatum a second of daylight. You can't give Tyrese Haliburton a second of daylight. He's going to make you pay for that way more than Jason did. He's also going to make the way better passes than he did. So like a lot of the ability to hide those guys that we saw beforehand disappears because of how the Pacers play.
Yeah, I'd agree. I also think that Mitchell Robinson is actually pretty good defensively in this game. Cat really is problematic. And also like, I don't think that Mikal really deserves a ton of credit for defense in this series. I thought that Hali was frying him in game one and not as much so in this one, but it's not like he's been a significantly impactful defensive player in this series. The one guy who I feel really bad for, who has absolutely done his job in both these games for New York, is Jalen Brunson. I just think he has been absolutely unstoppable as a scorer. I think that in this game especially, he is making the right reads as a playmaker and creating a ton of shots, but just like in single coverage, man, Pacers cannot do anything to make him uncomfortable. He's been cooking Aaron Nesmith. He's been cooking every matchup that he's seen. He's averaging 39.5 points per game.
I don't know if he's had
65% true shooting.
Has he had a bad quarter in this series? I don't think so. I think because he does the thing where he's kind of at the start a lot of the times, but he's been killing it out of the gate and the whole time. He was
overtime of game one because he had a couple turnovers, and that was really the one thing in game one. But he doesn't even do that in this one. He takes pretty good care of the basketball.
The one thing
I was impressed by his passing. He made a lot of really good reads.
Yeah,
he really did. I thought this was a phenomenal Brunson game in terms of how he used his strength to get the shots, like just working methodically down to that short mid-range on the block or in the elbow. It's such an unstoppable shot for him. But I didn't like the final possession. I thought that was a really bad decision by Brunson. I thought they should have just worked the rock or tried to get a shot. Maybe, like we were talking on the live stream, maybe you call a timeout and just get set up and, design a play. So I'll be critical of Brunson and Tibbs for that, but I also thought the fact that Tibbs gave Campaign that much run in the fourth quarter, I
Yeah.
get that, like, you want to stick to your rotations and you want to give him a little bit of a breather. Look, brother, you're down 0-1 at home. This is a must-win game. Like,
Yeah.
I think the Knicks are cooked. Like, I get that it's only 2-0, but you drop both games at home. I thought that was a really big misstep on Tibbs' part, too, letting Campaign play that much in the fourth. Like, I just think you got to feel the moment. And I get it. In the first game, they went on like a 14-0 run in the fourth with Brunson off the floor. What are the chances of that happening again? Like, Campaign hucks up one of the ugliest threes I've ever seen. I just think Tibbs needed to do a better job of feeling the moment and getting Brunson out there sooner in the fourth.
It's crazy. Like, if you had told me that I would be thinking through 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals, Jalen Brunson needed to play more under Tom Thibodeau, like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. You'd think he'll play him 44 minutes a night if he needs to, but obviously he doesn't play as much in game 1 because he gets into the foul trouble, and they were able to, as you mentioned, Logan, overcome it with that stretch early in the fourth, but that's not sustainable. And so I do agree. They end up +4 in his minutes tonight. They're +4 in his 39 minutes. They go -9 in the 9 minutes without him, and I just thought that their offense was pretty dysfunctional when he was off the floor. He's a special basketball player, man. He's a special offensive talent, and he has just been getting whatever he wants in this one. I mean, the pull-up threes really going in this game, but as you mentioned, Logan, all of the intermediate stuff, he's gotten whatever he wants from floater range. He's gotten whatever he wants from mid-range in both these games, and he's about as good an operator in that range as we have in this league. But one man just can't do it all, you know? And like, there's just a seamlessness, there's an ease, there's a consistency, there's a depth with Indiana that I always thought it was going to be a struggle for New York to try to match. And I think that that really, really has been the case through 2 games. You have a Hali masterpiece in game 1, but you have still collective offensive contributions around him. Aaron Nesmith gives you 30 points. You put up 138 points in that game. And then in this one, it's Siakam, who's just outstanding. And once again, the collective is quite good. It's a big difference.
That was the big thing for me going into the series, and the reason I picked Indiana was that collective play style difference, because like it's not, no playoff series is as simple as the question I'm going to lay out, but the answer seems obvious to me, which is which one of these teams can survive their best player not playing up to their standard. Jalen Brunson played up to his standard, even a little bit beyond that in this game. And Tyrese Haliburton played well below his, and the Pacers won the game. The Pacers just have the depth. They have the versatility. Like, I think people, when they talk about depth, they talk about it because just purely from a body's perspective, or not running out of energy because you're playing too many minutes perspective. But it's also about your lineup versatility, the different types of things you can throw at them. And the Knicks, you know what the Knicks are going to do. The Knicks are going to exist within this tight window where the Pacers can throw anything at you.
Yeah, and it's the skill set. I completely agree, Jacob, about the versatility. Like, everybody on this team is so specific offensively in what they can do. You're either an elite play finisher like an Obi Toppin, or you're a great ball handler off the bench like TJ McConnell. You've got a bunch of wings that can shoot and defend on this team. Like, everybody can kill you offensively, and I'll point the finger. Like, I'll put this one on Karl Anthony Towns. Like, he has been the big letdown to me in this game. Gives you 12 points in the second quarter, but, like, Cat's got to be better. This team compromised their depth to make that move. Now, granted, Julius Randle didn't play last year, right? Like, he wasn't even available. But you did have a guy like Dante DiVincenzo who was huge, swung games for them with his three-point shooting. When you're going to make that move, Karl Anthony Towns has got to step up. And obviously, right, they lost Hartenstein, too, from the run last year. Like, this is a different group. But when you go all in, when you make that move to get a guy like Cat, he has to deliver. And he just hasn't been consistently great enough. And you were talking about it earlier, Jacob. Like, it's just frustrating, man, that he will give you these glimpses, these runs, and he just can't sustain it, man. I don't know what it is.
The Pacers, Jesus, I can talk. The conference finals matchups between these two teams, I think what's really interesting is the dynamic of the bigs, because in Minnesota, they have their defensive big and their offensive big with Rudy and Reed. You can say the same thing about the New York Knicks, even if Mitchell, his finishing and offensive rebounding. He's not as novice on offense, but very heavily leaning on one end of the floor on defense. And then Cat, same way, where the Thunder have the versatility and the two-wayness from both of their center options. And then that's the same case for the Indiana Pacers. I mean, they really only play Miles Turner, but they can either go small and they have two-way players, or they have a big who's a great rim protector and a great shooter.
Or Tony Bradley.
Or Tony Bradley. That's a weird caveat. But other than Tony Bradley, for some fucking reason, you don't have to make concessions. You don't have to say we're picking a poison. There is no poison to pick. Everything's working. But like the in that OKC game, Rudy Gobert protects the rim really well, but his hands are made of bricks, so he doesn't do anything on offense. Literally, I can't snap, but snap your fingers. They sub him out middle of the third quarter. OKC goes on a massive run because they're getting to the rim over and over. And when you're in a constant state of we are either taking an L on offense or we are taking an L on defense, if you're playing a team that's taking an L on neither end, then you're gonna lose.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that like some of this stuff that we've seen in the playoffs is pretty damning for Cat. I think it's great how successful the two big lineups were against Boston and had some really great minutes in that first series too. But if you just look at some of the lineup on off stuff, like the double big look, and all the sample sizes are pretty small for this, but in the playoffs coming into today had a plus 21 net rating. Those lineups had been phenomenal, but as you mentioned, Jacob, you just can't really run those out against an Indiana team that is so fast down the court, that is so great at exploiting their slow-footedness. That's going to be much more problematic defensively. If you look at the minutes where Mitchell Robinson is out there without Cat, they're almost a +8 net team. Those minutes have been really good. The minutes where they have been a negative team, where they've gotten outscored, is when Cat is on the floor without Mitchell Robinson. They're a -2 net team. And really the big difference, obviously, is the defensive end and just how much they've struggled with Cat at the 5. And honestly, I think that he has probably had more good moments defensively in this playoff run than I would have expected. Like just how he defended on switches against the Celtics.
He was really good against the Celtics. I thought he had turned over a new leaf. That's how good he was.
I mean, he was still pretty disastrous in pick and roll defensively, but just in terms of guarding off switches, like he made Tatum and Brown settle for a lot of pretty difficult shots. But this was a matchup where you knew it was going to be much more difficult to hide him. This is a matchup where a guy like Hali, with his shiftiness, with his elite perimeter shooting, even though he wasn't great as a perimeter shooter in this game, that just makes him a much more difficult cover. And then the collective speed, the ability to constantly move the ball and capitalize on any advantages that are created by you having to compensate for Cat or Cat getting blown by in space. Like, you just can't hide him. And the only way to hide him defensively is at the 4, and you can't play those lineups in this series. So, I mean, you got a 127 defensive rating through 2 games, man. Like, your offense has done the job. Jalen Brunson has more than done his job, but you let up 138 points in game 1. You let up 114 again in this one. And it just feels like all of the core roster construction questions that we had about New York, like 1 month ago, are still very real. And
this is their chickens coming home to roost. This is something that we saw. We knew it was going to happen once they played a better team. Obviously, the Celtics were at least projected to be a great team, and then they weren't. But I honestly think the Knicks played above and beyond what their standard should be known and set to be. So it kind of got people very high on them, and understandably so. However, and also, I can't say I'm surprised by this, given their weaknesses.
And the one thing I was just going to say is the Celtics also played so far below it in games 1 and 2, where you're like, that's a next level meltdown, which the Knicks deserve some credit for defensively, absolutely. But also a lot of that was just Boston not being the team that we expect them to be. I agree. I think that the fatal flaws are still there. I think it's really, really difficult to bring a championship caliber team when you have both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor defensively, especially if they aren't going to be amazing offensively. And Brunson was, but Cat wasn't.
I got something to say. I've been flirting with this idea the whole playoff for the Knicks, because while I've been impressed with the fact that they've gotten here, I was especially impressed by their defensive scheme against the Celtics. They need to fire Tom Thibodeau. I think Tom Thibodeau is the definition of a guy who's going to raise your floor and cap your ceiling. He's so good. When he got there initially in New York, perfect coach for that situation because their aspirations were not that high. They were the Knicks, aka sucked all the time for my entire upbringing, other than 2013. So they were like, look, we're going to get Tom Thibodeau in here. We don't have that much talent, but he's going to have us play a style of basketball that makes you win in spite of talent. That is what his best strength as a head coach is. But the New York Knicks have talent. They have the talent now. So now it's not a benefit that he can provide that floor. It's just much more of a hindrance that he's capping the ceiling. And I think he is a bigger problem than any individual player was. Cat, yes, bad on defense. Is that new? Is that new information? Did we not know that? No. And I personally don't think you can't win with Cat. I think it's just been like depth. Obviously, depth is a bigger issue than Tom Thibodeau, sure. But a great way that they could have gotten over that is the offense could be so much better than it is, just without changing anything about any player or making any trades, any moves. Just use these guys different. And most coaches in the league, I think, could do better with this.
I agree. I think the group last year was actually probably more geared towards the style of basketball that Tibbs wants to play. You know, that grimy, defensive-minded, we're going to pack the paint and play nasty and rebound. I would just argue that I don't know if he knows how to, like you said, how to fully maximize these guys. And I actually do want to ask that question real quick. I don't want to get too far off topic. Do you guys think the team last year was more equipped to, I don't know, to be more competitive in a series like this, or do you think this team is better? Like, I guess even though
Hart is a two-way big. Hart is great on both ends of the floor, and that is the big thing that the Knicks are missing right now.
Well, and then obviously, like, you would still have Julius Randle. I think in this specific matchup, last year's team probably would have been more capable defensively. They would have been a little bit deeper with Dante and with Hartenstein. I think that those are a couple of the key boxes that you want to check when you're playing the Indiana Pacers. You don't want to have defensive weak points, and you want to have bodies who you can trust and who you can throw out there against them. On the Tibbs point, I don't disagree, Jacob. I don't view Tibbs as an elevator. I don't think that he's a creative offensive coach. There are some things that the Knicks do in terms of their spacing and their cutting that I like. At the same time, sometimes I just wish that Cat shot more threes. Sometimes I just wish the Cat was more involved as a pick and popper. And I don't view Tibbs as like a real offensive mind. I will say in this game, because we also have a super chat from No Laughing Matter who says Tibbs outcoached. I feel like what most people are probably focusing on is Cat not being in the game as much. Cat only playing 28 minutes. I just really didn't have a problem with that, with how he was playing, with Mitch being significantly better defensively and on the glass. So I have no problem with them firing Tibbs if they go that route. But do I think that firing Tibbs automatically solves some of the real concrete personnel issues that they have? No. Like, is Tibbs the reason that they can't put forth a good playoff defense against a team as great offensively as the Pacers with both Brunson and Cat? No, that's a Brunson and Cat thing, man. And the bench is a personnel thing. Like, so those are some of the things that I just think put a hard ceiling on them regardless of the coach.
Well, the thing is, like, the roster moved in a direction away from Tibbs's strength. So he's like trying to use his defensive mind as much as possible to help those defensive weaknesses, but they gave him a roster with major defensive weaknesses that they made that trade-off so they would have to be good on offense. So if he can't take that team and then make them good on offense, then this just needs to end. It just, the connection doesn't work there. They are at odds. I felt their scheme against Boston, as I've highlighted multiple times, was just great. I think in the first two games, obviously plenty of mistakes that Boston made and plenty of shots that they could have made, but I felt like they played some of the best perimeter defense I've seen in a long time, in the 2020s at least. But I just can't help but feel like they can be just as good defensively next year with a head coach who knows more about what to do with them on the other end.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I would be perfectly fine with them moving on with Tibbs. I just don't think moving on from Tibbs is the thing that takes them over the hump. I don't think moving on from Tibbs is the thing that makes them a true contender. I think they have some core limitations. And it really is defensively, because offensively, again, you've done their job. I mean, they've let up a 127 offensive rating, but they have what, a 124, 125 offensive rating in this series? Like, they can't get stops.
I mean, what do you...
Yeah.
I don't really know what the answer is, because I don't think there's a good solution. It's like, you made this move to go in to get Cat. It's like, if Brunson and Cat are going to be this bad defensively together, it's like, what, do you shop Cat now and try to move off of him?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what because they're the foundation of your team, and they're so bad defensively that you can't build a good team defense around them. I don't know, man. The Knicks kind of feel stuck.
Yeah, well, listen, I would say that I felt all of these things a month ago. I mean, basically through the entire season. The difference is they hadn't beaten the Boston Celtics, so at least they did that. I mean, at least they got to the conference finals. They did something they haven't done in 25 years. I don't think any of us were expecting the Knicks to come out here and win the title. I viewed them as a clear underdog to the Pacers. But if you did think the Knicks were going to win the title, if you did think they figured everything out like that against the Celtics, and going forward, this was going to be a serious, good playoff defense, well, then I think that you're disappointed. And then I think that this is illuminating and you see that, no, those core issues are still there. So, Logan, they went all in to have a chance. They went all in on Cat.
Well, I think
they traded the 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges.
Talent-wise, but it's like, I don't get how you get over this hump.
I agree. No, I don't think that they can. I think that that's just the reality. And
are we talking about the series? Are we talking about the series?
I'm talking about bigger picture than that.
Yeah, bigger picture. I think you can make this work.
You do.
I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the most ideal set of circumstances, but a big thing for me is I also feel like Josh Hart can't just be a sometimes good defender, sometimes just kind of their guy. Like, I think all 3 of your wings need to be great defensively if you're going to make this work. And then also, like, as much as I've loved Mitchell Robinson, I think your backup center would need to be a two-way guy, a guy who you can at least trust to not be pretty problematic on the offensive end. But depth would help a lot. More perimeter defense would help a lot if McBride was like more consistent of a shooter for what he brings defensively. If you're able to play him like 25 minutes instead of, I don't know what the hell he played today, but
I think he did 25 today. Yeah.
Did I nail that?
Like quite that much. Nailed that.
Yeah. No, he's there's a lot of things that they can do to improve this team, and I just think primarily they're not going to be there by being a great defense. I think they can get to the point of being a good one and then be a great offense. Yes, they've been pretty damn good offensively in this series. I think a lot of that's just because Indiana's not amazing defensively. But primarily, I just think a lot of restructuring would go a long way, to the point where at the very least I want to see that before I'm like, okay, it's trade Cat time.
I think it's easier said than done, because I mean, you were talking earlier, Jacob, about like the trade-offs. It's like the best Knicks offense is when Cat is at the 5 and you can spread out teams and do that, but then your it's like a push-pull
maybe need
thing.
Like a Jonathan Isaac type of power forward, like some type of like Aaron Gordon type, like an Aaron Gordon to the Jokic type of shit.
I honestly think that like Hartenstein with Cat would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a guy who offensively, he brings the passing, he brings the touch shot making. Exactly. Well, they couldn't afford it. But I think that philosophically, he's not that elite defensive anchor, but he is a good defensive 5. That's the challenge with Cat. I mean, this is the trade-off that Minnesota had. This is the trade-off that New York has had this year with the double big stuff. It's Cat's best at the 4 defensively, just because he's not as obvious weakness there. And he's certainly best at the 5 offensively. I want to be clear. I'm not saying like they should trade Cat or whatever. I don't really think that that's a realistic possibility. My take is just kind of like the Knicks basically are who they are. And I think that they've gone all in on wing defense. And I don't think that Mikal is an elite defender. I think that he's a good defensive wing. I don't think that he's special. And maybe they would need him to be like OG level for this to be an actual really solid playoff defense. I don't think that there's anything wrong with winning 50 to 52 games every year and winning a playoff series every year and making the conference finals every other year, whatever. But I do kind of think that's just where this Knicks team is at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't bet they're finals bound in the next couple of years, but I also wouldn't say this is like we're waiting for destiny as it's going to be to play out. I still think there is an avenue.
What do you guys think in this series? Is this series over, or is there a path for the Knicks out of this? Because they're down 2-0, but they've been two very competitive games, very close
They've
games,
also
obviously.
gotten here while still dropping games on their home floor a lot.
True. They had a better road record than home record this year,
Mm-hmm.
like including the regular season.
Wow. Yeah. So I think they'll win one in the next two, but I don't think I think it's probably over in 5, maybe 6. But I went into it feeling pretty damn confident the Knicks could win this thing, but I didn't realize the extent to how much Indiana's personnel would really clash with what they do. I knew it wouldn't be as easy as what came before, but wow.
I mean, they just get so many easy buckets. They just get up and down the floor so easily. They've got great decision makers everywhere. I thought this was going to be a 6-game series where the Pacers won, but I'm ready to say in 5. I agree with you. The Knicks aren't sorry enough to where I'd be like, all right, the Knicks are going to get swept. Like, I have too much faith in Jalen Brunson to think that a team like that is going to get swept with him, but I think it's done in 5. I think this series is over.
Yeah, I don't feel quite as strongly about this after 2 games as I do about OKC Minnesota, where like I just think OKC dominated both of those games, or at least dominated the second halves, where they end up winning very convincingly. Even though Indiana steals 2 on the road, home court advantage just hasn't really been a significant factor in these playoffs overall. It hasn't really been a factor for the Knicks all year. So I don't view that as insurmountable. I don't like it. But it's not necessarily a bigger deal that they have to now go out and win on the road than it is that they're just down 2-0 in a vacuum. Them beating Indiana in 4 out of 5, that feels effectively impossible to me. But I think that they have a better chance to extend this series to 6 games than Minnesota does, if we're using that as a point of comparison. I do think that Indiana is better. I think it's massive that they stole game 1, because that was a game that the Knicks should have won, like just flat out. And that's a game that you need to win if you want to win this series, because I look at Indiana and I just see an offense that doesn't stop. And you were talking about this earlier, Jacob, but like, if Brunson has not just an off game, but if he has a game that isn't remarkable, if he has a game where he doesn't score 35 plus, I worry about New York's ability to keep up, because Hali's going to get going more as a scorer. I mean, he was phenomenal as a scorer in game 1, but they're not going to keep getting away with switching Cat out onto him. Like, he can get that step back 3 whenever he wants. He just has to make it. And I still thought that, again, he had like a real impact. He was good on the glass in this game. He had a couple offensive boards. I thought that he created a ton of great shots for his teammates. The scoring just wasn't there. I think the scoring is going to come back. And just both the floor and the ceiling are higher for this Indiana team. It's tough for the Knicks, man. It's a really, really tough spot to be in. And game 1, I think, is one that you'd lose sleep over for a long time, because that was your chance to get a foothold in this series.
Yeah. I keep coming back to that dumbass Cameron Payne 3. Like, this is a game you can't lose. You just can't. So no Cameron Payne minutes, period, let alone at the start of the 4th quarter. Like, you're Tom Thibodeau. You're Tom Thibodeau. Play your starters the whole time. This is what you do.
That I totally do agree with. Like, not putting Cat in, again, I'm good with, because I just thought that Mitch was better overall in this game, but Brunson should have played the entire 4th. Brunson should have been out there as much as possible in this game. I'm trying to look up right now the transition numbers, because I thought that Indiana had a sizable advantage there. Plus 15 in transition points, man.
It's honestly
plus
less
15.
than I would have guessed.
And they're still more than doubling them. Last game, they were plus 10. Like, it's really, really difficult to overcome that when they're just getting more easy chances. It's really difficult to overcome that when they're winning the possession battle. These are a couple things that I've talked about a lot with OKC, and they do it literally at the GOAT level. But Indiana is the next best team in the field, winning in those 2 categories. I think it's no coincidence that seems to be the finals we're headed for.
Something I said going in was like, Indiana is going to be the better transition team. There's just full point blank period, end of discussion. Right. That's what's going to happen. After that, the Knicks are also worse in the half court. So if you don't have the full court or the half court, you don't have any of the court. You are just going to get cooked at that point.
Well, you have a Jalen Brunson and you cross your fingers.
It still does feel like a missed opportunity, both of these games for the Knicks, with how close they were. Like,
No, they absolutely could have won both of these.
100%. I mean, the first game was just Neesmith.
Definitely should have won game 1.
100%.
Yeah.
Neesmith turning up, forcing OT. That was a collapse, and Indiana just turning up. But this one, it's like we talked about, Bridges was really getting it going in the mid-range. Jalen Brunson did everything in his power for this team. I thought Mitchell Robinson did a really good job of manufacturing second chance opportunities, and the Knicks scored off of them. Like, to me, the difference in this individual game really was a little bit on Tibbs, but mostly on Cat. Like, Cat's got to be better, man. We got to hold him to that standard. And I've been a guy that's been really critical of Cat. I've come around on him, but I don't know if I don't think he's worth that contract. I'll say it like that, man.
No,
I don't think he's
he's not. He's what, one of 15 highest paid players in the league? He's not
at
worth
least
that billing. But
yeah, I mean, that contract's getting up to $60 million.
I feel like most teams in the league have a guy who makes too much damn money. So it's just
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It's just hard. It's hard with him and Brunson both out there defensively, and he was not good enough in this game. I do think the Pacers are just the better team, though. I do think that they are definitely the much better matchup for OKC in the finals. Like, I think that there's some really interesting dynamics to play there. OKC would eat the Knicks lunch, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my God. It'd be over so I would probably predict like 5 if I'm being generous.
Yeah, no, I would honestly pick a sweep if that were the series. But like, I do think Indiana's the team that's best equipped to actually stay pretty even with OKC in the turnover margin and still probably lose it. But I mean, Hali is the damn near the best player in basketball at protecting the ball, and collectively they protect the ball quite well in transition. They get up and down the floor as well as anybody, as does OKC. So there's just a couple things there. I think like OKC's ball pressure up against Hali's ball security.
It's also
that's
really
interesting.
The collective playmaking, because
for sure,
I felt good about Ant dribbling against OKC well enough. Like, I thought that would be fine, but then I was like, literally anybody else, what are they going to do? But if Andrew Nembhard puts the ball on the floor, or even Neesmith for a little bit, if Pascal puts the ball on the floor, fine. They're going to do a good job. There's not a bunch of guys that are just going to be able to bully to get them to do a bunch of turnovers. And then like Indiana will probably match them, or at least get close to matching them in transition. So it'll then come down to the half court offense. And dare I say, Indiana's probably a slightly better half court offense. But
I do think Indiana's a way better.
OKC's a way better defense. So I still think OKC wins, but it's not going to be easy.
Dude, it's going to be like a sprint. That entire series is going to be like a 100, just up and back, man.
Yeah.
I mean, OKC break a record for like miles ran per game.
I mean, just flat out pace in a finals. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it broke the record. I do think OKC is a clear favorite in that matchup. I think they can do a lot more to make Indiana uncomfortable offensively than vice versa. I do think that that's going to be a hell of a challenge for Hali dealing with that sort of perimeter defense and pressure enhance. I think Siakam is not going to be able to attack mismatches against that OKC defense. And I don't think they can do anything to really make Shea uncomfortable.
I also think Shea is going to, he will
feast.
Nembhard and Neesmith is your best matchup. And those guys are good, but no.
They're good, but look at what Jalen Brunson has done to him. I mean, Jalen Brunson has gotten whatever he wants.
Right. And fucking like, if the length of Jaden McDaniels can't bother SGA, putting a 6'2", 6'4" guard on him is not going to bother him at all.
Yeah. I mean, he is literally going up against Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and getting past them at will. Like, that's a scary, great offensive player. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're not there yet. I do hope that we get a Pacers-Thunder finals. But do we have any final thoughts on this Knicks-Pacers series before we wrap things up?
No, I don't think so.
It's over. It's over, bro.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I really, really, really struggle to see a world in which the Knicks come back. Like I said this last show, Logan, I'm very, very surprised that the Knicks were the betting favorite coming into this series. That just doesn't make sense to me. Indiana has been playing at a 60-win pace for 3/4 of the season, and they have more depth. They have more overall offensive talent. They get more easy stuff in transition. I think they're a defense with fewer holes in it. They're just a more complete, better basketball team that's been playing better basketball overall. They don't have the New York hype machine, but they are the better team. I really struggle to see a path where New York finds a way to win 4 of 5 games, man.
all their
I just can't
problems
see
are
it.
not ones that they can just change in
No,
a day.
'cause
Everything is gonna be this. All the problems are gonna be the same problems.
you said it really well earlier, Jacob, about them having to like choose offense or defense, basically. Because if I'm thinking about the formula for them in this series, I'm like, okay, they need Brunson and Cat to be amazing offensively. But then I'm like, they also have to be competitive defensively. And I don't know if you can even do that with Cat on the floor for 36 plus minutes. So,
Yeah.
like, it's just difficult to see them reaching the ceiling simultaneously on both sides of the ball that they would need to. We do have one more super chat from Mr. Talk About It. The Haliburton strikes New York again. What a tragedy.
I thought
what
he
he
was
does,
the most
man.
overrated player in the league, man. That's what
That's what
people
I
were
heard.
telling me.
That's what I was reading in the papers. That's what I was reading in the papers. It's not a Hali masterclass tonight, so we can't really gloat and flex. But next Hali masterclass, we're going to have some conversations about where he ranks among the best because he's one of those fucking guys. Jacob, thank you very much for joining us.
It was fun.
It was great to talk ball with you for the last few hours. If you guys
Yeah.
didn't see, we were over on Also Rusty Buckets, or
Nope.
we were on Little Rusty Buckets.
Little. Yeah.
Little Rusty Buckets. Too many channels, this fucking guy to keep track of. And we were live throughout the game, so probably not much reason to go back and watch that now. My mic was super choppy throughout, so just forget that even happened and rewatch this live stream a million times. But go subscribe to Little Rusty Buckets.
We'll
and
probably
Also
do
Rusty
it
Buckets.
again at some point.
And that time my mic will work.
In
So
theory.
hopefully, everybody, of course, go follow Rusty Buckets everywhere. And if you want more of our content, well, you can find it right here on our YouTube channel. We will be live again tomorrow post game, and then we will be live again the day after that post game. So stay tuned in for all that. And you can also find on our YouTube channel like some of the more in-depth video content we do. I just made a video about the Thunder defense, why it might be the best in the modern era yesterday. If you hadn't seen that. And you can also listen to the podcast across all audio platforms. And you can follow us on social, TikTok, Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at nerd_sesh. So with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
Yep.
And this was Nerd Sesh.